Everyone feared the millionaire's wife who bullied staff, until the black waitress became the owner. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Get out now. The words cracked through the dining hall like a whip. Every fork froze mid-air. Every conversation died mid-sentence. The woman in the rose gold gown stood, eyes blazing, her hand still clutching the sleeve of the black waitress she'd just grabbed. Gasps spread like ripples across crystal glasses. Someone whispered, "Did she just?" but stopped when the husband beside her gave a warning glance. At the far end of the room, the jazz trio fell silent. Only the chandelier hummed. The waitress didn't pull away. She just looked at the woman, calm, steady, unflinching, as if she'd heard that tone before and outlived it many times. Her name was Amara Cole, 35, new to the staff, or so they thought. The blonde woman's voice sharpened. "You people never learn where you belong. This is a private event, not a shelter." She yanked harder. The husband reached for her arm, murmuring, "Victoria, that's enough." But she shook him off like dust. Amara's white cuffs trembled once, then stilled. Her voice was low, even. "Please remove your hand, ma'am." The calm made it worse. It robbed Victoria of the chaos she wanted. "I said out!" The woman snapped again, her diamond bracelet flashing under the chandelier's light. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Cameras lifted from tables, tiny red dots glowed like sparks. And in that charged silence, the hierarchy of the room was laid bare. The rich woman who ruled by fear, and the quiet waitress who would soon rule by truth. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara. Victoria released her grip, lips curled. "Security's coming. You'll never work in this city again." Amara simply straightened her uniform, eyes steady, voice almost a whisper but clear enough for every table to hear. "Then it's a good thing, ma'am, that I don't work for you." The crowd stirred. The chandelier swayed slightly, as if the air itself had changed sides. And somewhere near the bar, a phone began to record. The air still hadn't recovered. Crystal glasses trembled on linen like they could feel the tension crawling across the tablecloths. Victoria Hale, the woman in the rose gold gown, slowly sat back down, but her pride stayed standing. She lifted her chin toward a waiter. "Get her out of here," she hissed. The waiter froze halfway, unsure which rule mattered more, hospitality or hierarchy. Amara didn't move. She simply adjusted her sleeve, the one Victoria had wrinkled, and turned toward the main staircase as if the noise behind her didn't belong to her world. A young hostess whispered to another, "Why isn't she leaving?" Because Amara wasn't here to serve dinner. She was here to see who deserved to stay. From the corner, Richard Hale's voice cut through the murmur. "Victoria, stop, you're embarrassing us." Embarrassment, not conscience. That was always the limit of men like him. Victoria shot him a look that could burn velvet. "You always take their side." Their side. 2 words heavy enough to tilt the room. Amara exhaled slowly. "I'll finish clearing table 7, then I'll go," she said softly. Her tone wasn't submission. It was strategy. Victoria laughed. "Finish? You'll finish nothing. I'll see to it personally." She raised her phone, pretending to type a complaint but really filming Amara's calm face, hoping to twist it later. Near the bar, a couple in evening wear whispered, "She's so composed." The man answered, "Or maybe she knows something we don't." A door swung open at the back. The restaurant manager, white jacket, anxious smile, hurried in. "What's happening here?" Victoria pointed, voice dripping venom. "Your staff just assaulted me." The room gasped again. Amara turned her head slightly, eyes steady. "Is that your story now?" The manager hesitated. He knew that tone, not defiance authority. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Miss Cole, is it?" Amara nodded once. Recognition flickered behind his eyes. He'd seen that name on ownership paperwork, investor calls, monthly directives. But before he could speak, Victoria stood, towering in her fury. "If you don't fire her, I'll ruin this place by morning." Amara tilted her head slightly. "You can try." The words landed like glass breaking underwater, silent but final. Across the room, someone's phone buzzed with a notification. Breaking. Hale Foundation gala under fire for staff abuse allegations. Whispers spread. Eyes turned. The storm she tried to unleash was beginning to turn back toward her. And Amara, still calm, still silent, reached into her apron pocket, touched her phone screen, and whispered so only the manager could hear. "Call Nia. Tell her the review has begun." The manager's hand trembled. "Yes, ma'am." The chandelier's light flickered once, as if the building itself understood the real power in the room had just spoken. It began with a whisper, the kind that travels faster than truth. "She's not just a waitress," someone murmured near the wine bar. Phones tilted, eyes narrowed. The tide was shifting, cell by cell, gaze by gaze. Amara stood near table 7, aligning silverware that didn't need fixing. Her movements were precise, graceful, the kind of calm that unnerves bullies more than anger ever could. Victoria, however, mistook that silence for weakness. "You think acting quiet makes you innocent?" she snapped. "You people always hide behind manners." The words cut through the hall sharper than any broken glass. Amara looked up, voice steady. "Manners don't hide character. They reveal it." The crowd heard it, that calm blade cloaked in velvet. A ripple of soft gasps passed through the room. Richard Hale's phone buzzed again, his face drained of color. He turned the screen slightly away, but the guests nearby caught the headline. "Hale Foundation Board under review for workplace misconduct." He cleared his throat. "Victoria, we should leave." She ignored him, her pride too loud to listen. "You'll leave," she spat, "after you apologize. On your knees if you have to." A soft voice came from the back, the maitre d'. "Mrs. Hale, please. She hasn't done anything wrong." Victoria turned her fury toward him. "Stay out of this, or you'll be polishing floors by morning." Her diamond bracelet flashed again as she pointed. The gesture looked regal but desperate. The room felt it, the smell of fear wrapped in perfume. Then came the sound of glass breaking. A waiter, hands trembling, dropped a wine flute. The shatter cut through the tension like a bell, and in that instant, Amara spoke. "No one cleans that up until this conversation is finished." The authority in her voice was so effortless that people obeyed before realizing they had. Victoria blinked. "Who do you think you are?" Amara didn't answer. She reached into her apron and pulled a small black card, thick, matte, embossed with the silver crest of Cole Holdings Group. She placed it gently on the nearest tablecloth. The manager's breath caught. "Madam," Amara cut him off softly, "not yet." The silence now wasn't fear. It was realization. The kind that moves like electricity through a crowd about to witness justice. At the corner table, a journalist from Seattle Business Weekly raised her phone to her lips and whispered to her recorder, "This isn't about a waitress anymore." Victoria's voice cracked, sharp as it was fragile. "What game are you playing?" Amara turned, eyes clear, tone measured. "The same one you've been winning until now." Behind her, the restaurant lights dimmed slightly as the automated system synced with a notification. "Owner presence verified. Security override engaged." A hush swept over the hall. Even the chandelier seemed to pause mid-glow, waiting for what came next. And for the first time that evening, Victoria Hale stopped speaking. From the back of the dining hall, a voice finally rose, unsure at first, but steady enough to split the tension. I saw her name," the maitre d' said. "In the reservation system this morning, A. Cole. It was listed as executive access." Heads turned like clock hands. Victoria froze mid-breath. The manager nodded slowly, voice shaking. "She wasn't scheduled as waitstaff. She was listed under—" He stopped himself, eyes darting toward Amara, as if asking silent permission to continue. Amara gave a small nod. "Ownership privileges." The word hung in the air like thunder waiting to break. The crowd murmured. Silver cutlery clinked nervously against porcelain. Victoria forced a laugh, brittle and hollow. "Ownership? That's ridiculous. She's a waitress with delusions." But the journalist near the bar was already typing, her voice low to her recorder. "Cross-checking Cole Holdings, confirmed founder Amara Cole. Hospitality chain, 10 locations nationwide." She looked up, eyes wide. "Oh my God." Across the table, Richard Hale stood slowly, color draining from his face. "Victoria, stop talking." "No," she barked. "She's lying. You all believe this act?" Her voice cracked on the word act, and in that crack, everyone heard the panic. A server stepped forward, timid but resolute. "Mrs. Hale, I was on duty when she arrived. She gave a staff ID, but it was priority coded. I'd never seen that before." Victoria spun toward him, venomous. "You'll lose your job for this." Amara's gaze shifted toward the young man. "No, she said softly. He just found it. The manager blinked, confused. Found what? Amara met his eyes. Integrity. Don't lose it again. The restaurant fell utterly quiet. Even the hum of the air conditioner sounded afraid to continue. Victoria's hands shook as she lifted her glass of champagne, trying to mask the tremor with a smirk. So what now? You'll fire me? Right here? In front of everyone? Amara took a step closer, her voice calm, even compassionate. No, ma'am. I don't fire people out of anger. I correct them out of necessity. The journalist whispered into her mic. Quote that line. Exactly like that. Guests exchanged glances, respect mixing with disbelief. Then a flashback flickered in Amara's mind. 10 years earlier, she stood in another restaurant, name tag crooked, when a guest poured wine on her tray and said, "You'll never own a place like this." That memory hardened into the stillness on her face now. "Ma'am," she said finally, voice lowering like a closing door, "you asked me to leave your table, I won't. Because this table, this house, this staff, all of it is mine." Victoria's hand went limp around the glass. It slipped from her fingers, fell, and shattered. No one gasped this time. They all saw it coming. The crystal glass hit the floor and exploded into silence. Tiny shards glittered like frozen lightning across the marble, and for a second, no one moved. Then Victoria snapped. "You think that makes you special?" she shouted, voice climbing higher than her control. "You think money changes what you are?" Her hand shot forward, pressing hard into Amara's shoulder. The sound that followed wasn't a scream, it was the collective gasp of a room realizing a line had just been crossed. "Don't," Richard said under his breath. "Victoria, please." But it was too late. The photographers from the charity dinner, still lurking near the back, had raised their cameras. The shutters clicked, like judgment. Amara didn't flinch. She just turned slowly toward Victoria, her voice quiet enough to make the entire room lean in. "You just touched the wrong woman." Her tone wasn't threat, it was prophecy. The manager rushed forward, voice cracking. "Mrs. Hale, please, that's assault." But Victoria only laughed, wild and shaky. "Oh, please, nobody's going to side with a waitress in an apron." Behind her, a guest whispered, "She's not wearing an apron anymore." And she wasn't. At some point, Amara had taken it off and folded it neatly on a chair like a chapter she'd just closed. She stood taller now, the calm radiating out from her like a quiet storm. For the first time, Victoria stepped back. "Who do you think you're intimidating?" she spat. Amara's eyes softened, not cruel but cutting. "I'm not intimidating you, Victoria. You're recognizing yourself." Those words struck harder than the slap Victoria had meant to give. The woman staggered slightly, breath catching, fury burning without direction. She reached for her phone, tapping wildly. "I'll have you banned from every luxury venue in the city." Amara's reply was soft, almost kind. "You'll find it difficult when every luxury venue in the city answers to me." Somewhere in the crowd, the young server from earlier muttered, "Protocol 9. She really said that. Another voice whispered, "It's happening." Then, Amara's composure cracked not in fear, but in memory. For a fleeting moment, she saw herself at 21, standing outside a hotel lobby in the rain, clutching a rejection letter that said, "Not the image we're looking for." She'd kept that letter for years. Tonight, it finally expired. Back in the present, Amara blinked away the memory and spoke again, her voice low, deliberate. "You told me I didn't belong, but you walked into a place built by my hands and spoke to me like I was furniture." She stepped closer, not menacing, measured. "This is the moment you learn the cost of that mistake." The restaurant lights dimmed again as the control system synced with her voice command. "Nia," Amara said softly, pressing the earpiece hidden behind her hair. "Activate Phase 2. A second later, the manager's tablet chimed. "Owner security override. Active." The sound rippled through the room like thunder trapped in glass. And Victoria Hale, for the first time all night, had nothing left to say. A faint electronic chime echoed from the manager's tablet, small, polite, but in that silence it sounded like a verdict. Every device on the restaurant's internal network blinked once. Screens dimmed, terminals froze, the music faded to a low hum. Across the top of the screen, one line glowed in silver text. "Owner access. ACOL Protocol 9 engaged." Guests leaned forward in disbelief. Someone whispered, "Is this part of the event?" No one answered. Victoria stared, her expression collapsing between confusion and denial. "What did you just do?" Amara didn't raise her voice. "I opened the truth." She turned slightly toward the manager. "Please connect the system to headquarters." He hesitated only a second before nodding. "Yes, Miss Cole." The sound of her name spoken with that title made the room shift again like the gravity had moved. Victoria's laugh cracked like glass underfoot. "This is absurd. You're all being fooled." But her voice no longer carried command. It carried panic. From the corner, the journalist lifted her phone, already recording live. "We are witnessing the activation of a corporate protocol inside Cole Dining Group," she whispered to her audience. "This is no stunt." Comments flooded her stream faster than the waitstaff could blink. The world was watching now. Amara looked around the hall, the chandeliers, the portraits, the white roses on every table, and her gaze softened. "This place was built for joy," she said quietly, "not humiliation." Her tone wasn't anger, it was elegy. Richard Hale rubbed a hand down his face. "Victoria, sit down." She didn't. She lifted her chin, trembling. "You can't embarrass me like this." Amara stepped closer, stopping just short of the fallen glass on the floor. "Embarrassment," she said, "is earned the same way respect is by choice." The manager cleared his throat, glancing at his screen. "Miss Cole, headquarters requests verbal confirmation." Amara nodded once. "Confirmed. Begin staff audit for discriminatory conduct effective immediately." A new chime rang out, sharper this time. Every staff ID terminal flashed red for a second, then green again, except one. The display above the hostess podium turned crimson. "Victoria Hale guest access suspended." Gasps rippled through the tables. Someone clapped once, instinctively, then stopped, embarrassed until others joined in. Soft applause filled the room, uncertain but growing. Victoria spun toward Richard, desperate. "Do something!" He stared at her, hollow-eyed. "I already did years ago. I married the wrong woman." The words fell heavier than any command Amara could have given. Victoria's lips parted, no sound came out. Amara turned to the staff. "Please, escort the Hales to the front lobby. Offer them water, but not pity." The manager nodded. "Yes, Miss Cole." As the couple was led away under the gaze of dozens of witnesses, Amara exhaled not victory, but release. She reached into her pocket, pressed a single command on her phone, and whispered, "Phase 3, let the system speak for itself." The restaurant lights brightened again, music returned softly, and from the ceiling speakers came the calm voice of her assistant, Nia. "This location is now under direct owner supervision. All future events will operate under the Code of Dignity." The guests rose slowly, clapping in full now. Amara didn't smile. She just looked around at the place she'd built, finally silent in the right way. The applause faded into a hush that felt almost reverent. For the first time since the confrontation began, Amara stood fully in the light, no apron, no uniform barrier, only her calm presence and the shimmer of authority reclaiming its place. Every phone camera now pointed at her, but she didn't flinch. This moment wasn't about proof. It was about truth. She turned toward the staff, her voice low but amplified by the stillness around her. "You've all seen how quickly respect disappears when people think you're beneath them," she said. Her tone was calm, but each word landed like a verdict. "That's why this place was never meant to be about class or color. It was meant to be about grace." Victoria tried one last breath of defiance from the doorway, shouting, "You think this makes you powerful?" Amara didn't turn. "No, it makes me responsible." Then she faced the guests again, her eyes steady and clear. "You called me a servant in the restaurant I built." Gasps rippled through the hall, not loud but heavy, like air being released from a room too long sealed. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their glow, frozen in the gravity of the sentence. The journalist whispered, "There it is, the line," as if documenting history in real time. Phones kept rolling. No one blinked, and Amara didn't smile. She let the silence carry the weight of the words. The manager spoke next, voice trembling but proud. "For anyone doubting it, the Cole Holdings registry is live on the wall display." He tapped a small console. Screens across the dining room flickered to show the logo. Cole Holdings Group founder and chief executive, Amara Cole. The truth hit like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. No music, no cheers, just the sound of realization spreading from face to face. Richard Hale turned toward Amara, his voice barely audible. "You planned this." Amara met his eyes. "No, I prepared for it. There's a difference." Behind her, the young waiter from earlier, the one who dared to speak up, stood straighter, pride softening his fear. She looked at him and nodded once. "Thank you for remembering your voice." He blinked, speechless. "You'll need it," she added. "You're being promoted to assistant floor manager, starting tonight." The guests broke into quiet applause again, genuine this time not for spectacle, but for restoration. Victoria's hand gripped the frame of the doorway, her pride dissolving faster than the glitter on her gown. "This isn't over," she whispered. Amara finally turned to her, eyes level, voice unshaken. "It is for you." She gestured toward the exit. Security opened the doors. Cool night air swept in, soft and final. Victoria hesitated, looking around for anyone to stand with her. No one moved. Amara's gaze lingered only a second longer before she said, "Let's continue dinner. No one should leave hungry for justice." The room exhaled. For the first time all evening, the restaurant felt like what it was meant to be, a place of dignity served warm. The doors closed behind Victoria Hale with a sound that seemed to seal the entire night into history. No one spoke. Even the clinking of cutlery stopped. Then, one by one, the staff screens lit up with System Alert's soft tones that echoed like a heartbeat returning after a long pause. Personnel review initiated. Access revoked. Hale account. New directive. Code of Dignity, Section 1. Each notification shimmered across the tablets like falling dominoes of justice. The manager exhaled, shoulders trembling in visible relief. Richard Hale, still standing near the exit, stared at the red banner flashing on his phone, his corporate membership revoked, his name erased from the sponsor list of the very event he funded. "Amara," he said quietly, voice stripped of arrogance. "Please, she didn't mean—" Amara cut him off gently. "The apology you're reaching for doesn't belong to you." He swallowed hard, then nodded because deep down, he knew she was right. Guests began to murmur, but not with gossip now. It sounded more like collective introspection, people reevaluating what they'd just witnessed. At one corner table, a woman whispered, "That's what accountability looks like." Her partner nodded, and she didn't raise her voice once. The journalist near the bar continued typing, but her eyes shimmered. Her voice cracked on the recording. Tonight, at Cole Dining, dignity didn't whisper, it rewrote the rules. Amara stood near the center, hands clasped loosely in front of her. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply breathed slow, steady, grounding herself in the storm she'd survived and redirected. Behind her, the young waiter returned with a small broom to sweep the shattered glass. Amara stopped him with a raised hand. "Leave it for now," she said softly. "Let it remind us what breaks when respect does." He nodded, eyes wide, as if understanding something bigger than policy. At the far end of the room, the maitre d' approached cautiously. "Miss Cole, should I resume service?" Amara smiled faintly. "Yes, everyone here deserves a warm meal and a cold truth." Laughter rippled through the tables, soft, genuine, human. The kind that only comes after tension finally exhales. Wine was poured again, glasses refilled, music returned slower, smoother, like a heartbeat rediscovering rhythm. Richard Hale slipped quietly toward the door, head lowered. Amara didn't stop him. Justice had already done its work. When the manager's voice came over the speaker, "All systems restored, owner supervision active." A wave of applause filled the restaurant once more. Not loud, but meaningful. For a rare moment, hierarchy and humility shared the same table. As the final notification blinked, "Review complete, termination confirmed." Amara looked up toward the chandelier, its crystals catching the light like a crown she no longer had to wear. Justice wasn't loud tonight. It was quiet, clear, and complete. The night had thinned into a calm afterglow. The chandeliers dimmed to a golden hush, washing every face in the same soft light, equal, unfiltered, finally human. The storm had passed, but its echo lingered in the silence like the last note of a hymn. Amara stood beside table 7, the same one where it began. The broken glass still lay scattered near her shoes, glinting under the amber light. She didn't step around it. She stood among the shards as if to remind herself what it cost to stand tall. The staff watched her not with fear now, but pride. The young waiter she'd promoted earlier approached with a trembling smile. "Miss Cole," he said softly, "do you want us to clear the mess?" Amara shook her head. "No, let it stay until morning. The morning staff should see what happens when silence speaks." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. From the back, the journalist lowered her phone and finally stopped recording. "I came here for a charity dinner," she said quietly, "but I think I just saw what charity really looks like." Amara smiled faintly. "Then write that." She turned toward the guests, the same crowd that had watched, judged, whispered. Now they watched differently. "Some of you came here tonight expecting entertainment," she said. "You found truth instead. I hope it tasted honest." No one dared interrupt. Even the kitchen staff had come to the doorway, arms crossed, eyes shining with a mixture of awe and vindication. Amara walked toward the center of the room, stopping beside the grand piano where the jazz trio sat frozen. She placed a gentle hand on the keys, pressing one note, a low E that hummed through the quiet. "That," she said softly, "is the sound of a new standard." Then she straightened, shoulders squared, eyes steady. "I didn't raise my voice," she said. "I raised the standard." The words hung in the air, still and sacred. Guests nodded, some clapped, some simply bowed their heads. The applause grew, not wild but warm, carrying the rhythm of respect rather than noise. Nia's voice came through Amara's earpiece, calm and proud. "All locations have received the new directive. Every coal property now operates under your code of dignity." Amara exhaled, eyes glistening. "Good. Then we've done more than win an argument. We've set a precedent." The young waiter whispered to a coworker, "She changed everything without yelling once." His coworker smiled. "That's what power really sounds like." Outside, rain began to fall light, steady, cleansing. Through the glass walls, city lights blurred into soft reflections, turning every window into a mirror. Amara caught her reflection, half shadow, half light, and smiled. "End the night," she told the manager gently. "Let everyone go home with their dignity intact." He nodded. "Yes, Miss Cole." As the last guests departed, Amara walked toward the door herself, pausing only once to look back. The room was peaceful, now restored. Justice had done its work quietly, completely. And somewhere in that stillness, the world had shifted just a little closer to fair. Outside, the rain deepened to a soft curtain of silver, brushing against the restaurant's glass facade like applause from the heavens. Amara stood beneath the awning, her reflection shimmering beside her in the wet marble. The night air smelled of rain and reckoning, sharp, clean, real. Behind her, the last of the guests were leaving. Some paused to thank her quietly, others just nodded, as if afraid to disturb the gravity of what had happened. The young journalist from Seattle Business Weekly lingered by the door, notebook damp in her hands. "Miss Cole," she said, hesitant, "if I may, what do you want people to take from tonight?" Amara turned slightly, rain beating along her cheek like small medals of resilience. "Not revenge," she said. "Remembrance. The world forgets too fast who built it, who's been dismissed by it, who still keeps it standing. Tonight was just a reminder." The journalist swallowed hard. "Can I quote that?" Amara smiled faintly. "You already have." Inside, the staff was resetting the dining room. Broken glass swept, candles replaced, chairs aligned. Yet one thing remained untouched, the faint ring of spilled wine around table 7. A small red halo marking where humiliation had been turned into power. Nia's voice came through the earpiece again, steady as ever. "Reports from social feeds show 30 million impressions already. People are calling it the Cole Standard." Amara looked toward the city skyline. "Good. But don't make it about me, make it about conduct." A beat of silence. Then Nia added softly, "You realize you changed more than one room tonight." Amara didn't answer, just watched a taxi roll by, headlights slicing through the drizzle. She remembered being 19, waiting tables in a diner that wouldn't let her serve the private booth section. She remembered pretending not to care, saving every tip, every breath, until she built something she could never be thrown out of again. Those memories still burned, but now the fire warmed instead of scorched. The manager appeared behind her with an umbrella. "Ma'am, your car is ready." She glanced at the black sedan parked by the curb, her name glowing on the digital plate, A. Cole Owner Access. But she didn't move yet. Instead, she looked at him and asked quietly, "Tell me, did they learn something tonight?" He nodded. "Yes, we all did." "Then let that be the real closing bill," she said, stepping into the rain without the umbrella. The droplets ran down her face, indistinguishable from tears, though none of them were sadness. Her steps echoed against the pavement, soft and deliberate. Behind her, the Cole Dining logo on the glass doors flickered once, updating its digital banner. Code of dignity active across all locations. Amara turned once, just enough to see it glow through the rain. For the first time all evening, she allowed herself to smile, not triumphant, but free. Justice had never been about the noise. It had always been about the aftermath, the quiet proof that power, when used with grace, could rebuild the very room that once tried to erase you. By dawn, the city had washed itself clean. Rainwater glistened on every window pane, and the neon signs of downtown flickered awake one by one. Across the boulevard, the Cole Dining flagship stood still, its glass walls reflecting a sky that seemed wider than the night before. Inside, the morning crew arrived in quiet awe. They had all seen the clips. Victoria Hale confronted. Ownership revealed. The code of dignity activated. It had flooded every timeline overnight, not as gossip, but as gospel. And there, standing by the bar with a mug of black coffee, was the woman who had turned humiliation into history. Amara Cole. No press entourage, no spotlight, no makeup. Just the quiet strength of someone who had already spoken her truth. The young waiter from the night before entered, still unsure if what he'd witnessed had been real. "Good morning, Miss Cole." She looked up, offering a calm nod. "Good morning, Michael. You're early." He hesitated. Couldn't sleep. Too much to think about. Amara smiled softly. "That's what growth feels like, restless but worth it." He grinned, still nervous. "The internet's calling you the quiet storm." Amara chuckled under her breath. "Let them. Storms clear the air." The restaurant hummed to life around them, the smell of roasted beans, soft jazz, chairs sliding into place. But something deeper had changed. The staff greeted each other with eye contact, not avoidance. They carried trays like symbols of purpose, not servitude. Respect had become the new uniform. Nia entered, phone in hand, voice brisk but bright. "All 10 locations confirmed compliance. We've received over 1,000 applications in the last 6 hours. People want to work for you now." Amara sipped her coffee, thoughtful. "Then they'll work with me, not for me." A pause. Nia smiled. "You really mean that, don't you?" Amara set down her cup. "I built this place to feed more than stomachs, Nia. It feeds self-worth. That's harder to keep warm, but it lasts longer." Just then, a courier stepped through the doors with a stack of newspapers. The headline read in bold, "Silence has a sound. The Black CO, who redefined power." Below it, a still photo of Amara standing in the broken glass, eyes calm, hands steady. She looked at it for a moment, then folded it closed. "That's yesterday's story," she said. "Today we serve breakfast." Michael laughed softly, then asked, "So what happens now?" Amara turned toward the windows, sunlight catching her face. "Now?" she said. "Now we make sure no one ever feels small in a room they helped build." Outside, the city moved, buses hissed, horns called, life resumed. But something invisible had shifted beneath it all. People were watching differently, listening differently, believing differently. The night had ended, but the standard remained, etched not on the walls of cold dining, but in the quiet posture of everyone who walked through its doors that morning. A week later, the world hadn't stopped talking. Clips of that night played everywhere, classrooms, offices, newsrooms. The phrase, "I didn't raise my voice, I raised the standard," had become a quiet anthem for dignity. But for Amara Cole, the noise outside mattered less than the silence within, the kind of silence that follows resolution, not defeat. She sat in her corner office overlooking the harbor, morning sunlight glinting off the water like sequins scattered by grace. Her phone buzzed endlessly, interview requests, board messages, invitations to speak. She let them pile up. Some stories didn't need retelling, they needed remembering. Nia entered, tablet in hand. Every outlet wants a quote. CNN, The Atlantic, even Vogue. Amara looked up, eyes steady. "Tell them the quote's already public." Nia smiled knowingly. "The line?" Amara nodded. "It's all anyone needs." Across the glass walls of the office hung framed photos, each one a restaurant she'd built from the ground up. Some elegant, some modest, all carrying the same inscription near the door. "Respect served here." She turned her chair slightly, watching a barge drift across the bay. "Funny," she said softly, "how people called me an overnight success. It took 15 years to become an overnight." Nia laughed, then grew quiet. "You know, a lot of black women watched that video and said it gave them permission to walk taller." Amara's eyes softened. "Good. Let's make sure they never need permission again." A knock came at the door. Michael stepped in, dressed sharply now, his new name tag gleaming. Assistant floor manager. He held a small gift bag. "It's from the staff," he said shyly. "A thank you." Inside was a single crystal shard, one of the pieces of glass from that night mounted on a plaque engraved. "What broke made us shine." Amara held it carefully, smiling with the kind of pride that doesn't need an audience. "This," she murmured, "is better than any award." Outside, thunder rolled faintly, not menacing, but distant, as if the world was still applauding. Amara glanced at the skyline and whispered to herself, "Justice isn't loud, it's consistent." Nia gathered her things. "Board meeting in 10 minutes. Let them wait 5, Amara replied, standing. "I'd like to watch the world breathe for a moment." She walked to the window, hands clasped behind her back. Below, she could see one of her restaurants opening for lunch, the staff laughing as they set tables, the new code of dignity embossed on every menu. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of peace, not victory peace, the kind that doesn't fade when the cameras turn away. She whispered one last thought, half prayer, half promise. May every room that once silenced us echo with our calm. Then she smiled, stepped away from the window, and walked into her next meeting, not as a symbol, not as a survivor, but as a standard,